Well, we're live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Fable Fridays. For the live crowd, if you're even watching, if you're even still around, when things go wrong, they go wrong. But regardless, we're here and we're ready to talk all about the former Vertigo series, I should say, because, Vertigo's no longer around, but Vertigo's classic series, Fables from Bill Willingham. My name's Gio, and welcome to another live stream here at A Week in Geekdom. I don't do it often, but I wanted to sort of make an exception, I guess, and make a series of videos called Fable Fridays, where once a month we're going to discuss a different volume of Fables, in this case, the deluxe editions. So there will be 15 videos overall about Fables. We're starting with number one, and one thing you should note, I typically don't do spoilers in this channel. So if you're watching and you're hoping for a spoiler-filled discussion, we'll have that later. Instead, I like to review books and talk about them as spoiler-free as possible because I want new people to jump in to these titles and discover all the wonders of them, I guess. So yeah, Fables. Hey, Jesse. Thank you for tuning in, my man. Thank you so much. So, what exactly is Fables all about? First off, I love this cover. This is my favorite out of all the 15 hardcovers, and the series has spectacular artwork from a bunch of different artists. But I love this. I find it iconic for a very first volume. The main Let me switch the book over here. The main thing about this series, the main shtick, I guess, that a lot of people uh, they immediately think of when you tell them about Fables is, of course, the famous stories that we all know, like the Big Bad Wolf, Snow White, all those other characters, and how in this series they are living among us, the humans, and they're stuck living with us because they were exiled from their lands by the adversary, which at this point in the game, we don't know who that is exactly. We later find out, of course. But starting from volume one, we don't know that. We just know that they've been exiled and are living with us regular humans in New York and Fable Town and all that jazz. Of course, there are different type of fables. There are ones that can blend in with humans, like your Snow White, for example, or Beauty and the Beast, stuff like that. But there are characters, say the Three Little Pigs or the dragons and giants, stuff like that, and the crocs and foxes, etc., that don't necessarily blend in with humans. So they have in upstate New York, I think, they have the farm where all of them are living in seclusion. That comes into play later in this volume, but as a starting series, the first couple of issues that you read in Fables, you are getting a massive exposition to this world. You're starting to learn about all these wonderful characters, and one of the two, no, this is volume one. It says right there, book one. Sorry, Dan. So let me flip it over here. There it is, number one. So at the start of the series, we get introduced to Bigsby Wolf and Snow White. Those are the two characters for which you are going to jump into the story and learn about Fabletown and all these wonderful characters. At the beginning, it's this mystery of what exactly happened to a character called Rose Red. And if you know your Fables, you know that slight mini spoiler, she is Snow White's long forgotten sister. And that comes into play later on as well at the end of the book, which I thought was fascinating about how we somehow tend to forget the stories that these characters are based on and all that stuff. So at the beginning of the story, we get a possible missing person case or possible murder of Rose Red, and Bigby Wolf is trying to, of course, solve it. And through his case, we meet long stabled characters that are going to come into play later as the story progresses. You get to meet Jack, and you get to meet Snow White and all these other characters. And it's a fine introduction, and I would say it's a little bit too clean cut. The art is done, the first art is done by Lan Medina, and I'm a fan of his. I love his artwork. I think it's fascinating, but it's a little bit too clean cut for my taste. So yeah, it's not until the second volume where we start seeing Mark Buckingham on art duties where I think the series elevates itself to a whole nother level. At the beginning, let me take this slip off. At the beginning right here, I mean, this is, I love this. I love this introduction with these characters and how clean and nice everything looks. And I think you could say it's on purpose because later on in the second story arc with the farm, everything is not as clean, as wholesome as it seems at first. I love that basically you're getting all these famous characters dealing with relatable human problems, stuff like Beauty and the Beast, and Beast having problems with his curse and transformation showing up. Let's see if I can get a good page right there. There it is. Yeah. I'd love the way Medina draws his characters, his human characters. They look really awesome to me. So I was really excited to jump back in to read this book because I had forgotten. I should have said this at the beginning of the video. I've not finished Fables ever. I've only read, I think, like 3 or 4 of the hardcovers, which I know makes me a horrible fan, but that's part of the fun. We're going to review all these things together 1 month at a time. So yeah, at the start of the series, like I mentioned, we meet all these wonderful characters, and here's Jack at the start when he discovers that there has been a terrible accident. And let's see if I can get the page where this is happening. Okay. Yeah. Here is this view of the characters and Bigby and Snow White discussing the case, I guess, of Rose Red, and you can see her lavish lifestyle in New York City. So we don't know at the start what's happening, and it's through his investigations, through Wolf's investigation, that we come to learn what really transpires. And like I said, it's a little clean cut and simple at first, but it's not until you reach the resolution, I should say, of this story, of the first case, where things do pick up exponentially, and we do start learning about what this world and its inhabitants, I should say, are all about. It just, I mean, the best way I can describe this is that you're jumping into this story, which has wonderful, fantastic characters, and as you're turning each page, you're learning more and more. And it's a little bit of a slow burn at first, but once you finish that first arc, when you resolve the case of Rose Red, it opens up the possibilities of how amazing and how wonderful this series is. Now, I don't want to spoil what happened with that case, but once you start putting the pieces together, it makes sense and you get it. It's a fairly typical thing that we've seen in mystery crime-solving books. It's nothing new, but however, the appeal obviously comes from having these fabled characters in this setting, Also, the covers on this thing are just breathtaking. I love it. So once we get past that, we're also introduced to several other characters, like Bluebeard, which took me a minute because I don't know every single Fable character, unfortunately. So some of them I'm like, oh, wait, what? Yeah, I had to do some research on it and figure out who these characters were. So that's part of the fun as well. There's a lot of Easter eggs for all you fanboys out there. And, these characters are fully fledged and unlike the stories that you've read. So a lot of them will curse and drink and smoke and have sex and do regular adult things. So I cannot recommend it for a younger crowd, I guess. But it's very interesting to see the characters in this type of setting. Obviously it's the early 2000s, I want to say. So a lot of the references just aren't, they don't hold up that well, especially when they start talking about the .com craze of the late 90s and the early 2000s. Yeah, that went over smoothly. So yeah, here's one of the scenes where they're trying to recreate the possible murder, the homicide, and you get, of course, Big B here trying to solve everything. I like that when you're reading the story, they don't really tell you what's happening, and you just take it at face value. Like, okay, he is behaving that way. Fine, all right, fantastic. But as you keep reading and you see the character interactions, especially with Snow White, she's such an important character to the story that you start figuring out, like, okay, so these guys are. They have ulterior motives, and there is some conspiracies and backstabbing and ploys to do stuff. Dan, don't worry about it. Hey, N-Man, thank you for joining. I know I started this super late for the live crowd. When you do find out what happens, I can show this. You're not going to read the text. So at the end of the first arc, comes the farm, the famous Animal Farm story, which is just fantastic. This really is like the proper introduction to Fables, in my opinion. There's trouble brewing in that farm with the animals that I mentioned earlier, and Snow White is going to investigate, and that leads into something really awesome and filled with a lot of social critique of classism and the rich and the poor, and it leads into a whole heap of trouble for these characters that I cannot recommend enough. So if you stick around enough for this book, I think you're going to have a solid introduction to Fables. I think you're going to love the characters. I love Big B Wolf. He's one of my favorite comic book characters, and Snow White too. She's a mean one at the start of this, which reminds me, I got to talk a little bit about the video game. I'm sure the chat will remind me. So yeah, you get introduced to a whole bunch of characters that will be further developed as the series goes along. But I do think it is a fantastic start. I love that Bill Willingham had the creativeness to, nowadays we take it for granted because a lot of people are into that. They take nostalgic things and bring them back to our present time and do new twist on it. So for this, to have it in a comic book form and take classic literature characters of fables and stuff and reintroduce them in modern settings and do more adult contemporary things, noir investigations, social critiques of violence, sex, drugs, all that stuff, it's fascinating and fantastic. Of course, like I mentioned earlier, Lan Medina's artwork is clean, precise, and beautiful to look at. But I think it excels a lot better once you reach the farm with Mark Buckingham on art. As you can see, he adds a lot more depth and shadow, especially for a character like Bigby Wolf, where at the first story, he's lighting a cigarette and you just see his whole face. But here, you actually see the shadows, contour on his face and stuff. And it just looks pretty freaking fantastic. I'm trying to see if I can show more of the art without spoiling anything, because I do think the twists and turns on the story are fascinating. Just really cool to look at. And I love, one of the things I love about this is that it doesn't it doesn't take it takes its time building the story, I should say. Sorry, but it doesn't indulge in like over exposition. That's the thing I don't like about comics, movies, and even video games on occasions, where you spoon feed your audience with information. Here, it kind of flows pretty well, where I didn't feel I was overwhelmed with information. I like discovering it bit by bit, not have a character like, well, I'm going to read you the history of something, and you learn all about it because he's reading it. I do like that you don't really understand or know everything at the start, and as you keep reading and reach the second arc and stuff like that, and later on with the other volumes, you really start to understand and learn why the characters behave the way they do. Obviously, they are following tropes because these characters are famous for a reason, and us as readers know that they behave a certain way. So the book knows this and plays around with that stuff, like Snow White's marriage. She's divorced. You find out why, but still she retains her sense of self and her personality and all that stuff. But that gets explored pretty well too. Bigby, I'd love that he's not allowed on the farm for obvious reasons, aside from the three little pigs. But I think it's a fantastic work that really examines all these wonderful characters in new and exciting ways. So that, in a nutshell, is my review. I didn't want to spoil anything because, like I said at the beginning of this stream video, I'd like for new audiences to jump in and maybe be intrigued by what I've shown here and want to pick up and read this for the first time. I don't like ruining plot points on these videos, but I can show you the artwork because it's pretty freaking fantastic. This is one of my favorite ones, one of my favorite covers. I believe this is for the wraparound cover for the first trade paperback. Yeah. We got into Fables, by the way. Here's some art right there. I got into Fables. I knew about it, but I hadn't started reading. Maybe the game, The Wolf Among Us, had a huge influence in me wanting to read the series, because I do remember after playing it, I told myself, I got to get these hardcovers, because originally a friend of mine was buying the series in the trade paperbacks, but there were like 22 of them, something like that. I went ahead and started collecting the oversized hardcovers, and even if I wasn't reading them, I was still getting them. I'm glad I did, because now some of them are out of print. So here's more pencils right there, looking pretty cool. And actually, oh, I'd love this. This is Lan Medina's preliminary designs for Bigby Wolf and Snow White. This is awesome. I love these two characters. They're my favorite of the series. The animal work. The animals look fantastic. Let's see if I can highlight them. There you go. I think I can show this because DC Direct made a kick-ass statue out of this. That's one of my mini grails. I wish I could get this because it's out of stock everywhere. I was going to say out of print, but it's a statue. Get it together, Tio. And what was the other thing? Oh, let's see if I can highlight this right there. That cover from Alex Maleev is pretty freaking fantastic. And I could see how the game was influenced by it because it's very noirish, especially with Bigby over there. So that's about it. Fantastic artwork, great premise, wonderful characters, a wonderful introduction, a great reinventing of these characters in a new setting, if you will. And I am very much looking forward to book 2 whenever we get around to it. So if you haven't picked it up, you might have some trouble with this because I do know it is hard to get. I believe volume 7 or 8, volume 5 and 7. Gotcha. So yeah, that might be an issue for a lot of people. And man, thank you for joining, man. I'm sorry, I was busy doing the thing and I didn't notice you were typing. I might get the first compendium that comes out in September. I would have bought the oversized hardcovers, but Volume 5 and Volume 7. Yeah, I knew about Volume 7, but I didn't know about Volume 5. That's interesting. Let's see right now how much is it going for. Let's check on eBay. Fables Deluxe Edition Volume 5. It says on eBay, wow, $76. There's only one listing for this thing? How about the sold items? Sold listings, $25 for... Yeah, there are none. Oh man, that sucks. I think those are the rare ones. That sucks. I think it's a series that should be in print. I'm very hopeful that the compendiums will bring a lot of people in. Of course, we did get the announcement last year at the what's it called? The Video Game Awards, where they announced Wolf Among Us Season 2. So I'm really excited about that. Hopefully, a lot of people pick that up because there are huge fans of that game that have not read the comic. And I laugh because I remember watching videos and they're like, oh, this game is wonderful. I wish there were more. I'm like, bro, there's like hundreds of issues. I think it was 150 issues or something of this series, plus the spin-offs that you can read and continues the story. So that was hilarious to me. How much would DC lose by reprinting those 2 volumes? That's it. Fire Chimney right now for lack of Fables reprints. I think they should reprint the deluxe editions, keep them in stock. Even if you do the compendiums, a lot of people will want the hardcovers because compendiums, I believe it's going to be the same material as the Ex Machina by Brian K. Vaughan. So it's going to be that type of book, which I'm not terribly fond of. These deluxe editions are fantastic. I love them. So I wish, like you said, they would just reprint the ones that are out. Sometimes there are legit reasons why some books are reprinted. Perhaps the editions are inappropriate in the show. At first, I was thinking that maybe because of the nature of the story and it's being like, I don't know if they're all public domain characters, so it shouldn't technically be an issue, but you never know. There is a point in the book where they do mention the fact that these Fables characters are practically immortal, and the fascination that we have for them fuels their longevity. So I thought that was really awesome, and to see long forgotten characters is awesome because they're breathing new life into what could have been lost. There are characters in this book, like for me, an example, like Bluebeard. When I first started reading this book, I had no idea who he was. So that was great to open my eyes to things that I thought I knew, but you're rediscovering all these long forgotten stories. That is my review for Fables, guys. I wanted to keep this short. I typically don't do a lot of live streams because my internet is terrible for upload speeds. That's why I don't do it. I just participate on my friend's Omnibus Collectors Network YouTube thingamajig and do that. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I wanted to mention before I go about The Wolf Among Us. Right. I got into The Wolf Among Us on PlayStation 3. I was downloading the episodes. So the other day, I think we were talking about it in Omnibros Live, and somebody kept asking about the game. And I thought to myself, it's been a while. And I have my PS3 with me. I can't show it right now. I will do a video on gaming at some point, but it's not the focus of this channel, so it's taken a back burner. But I do have my PlayStation 3 with me, and unfortunately, with the hurricane season in 2017, it got extremely flooded and damaged, and it's all oxidated inside and stuff, and it's bad. I tried turning it on, and I just heard a whamp, 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 and the hard drive was just struggling to turn on. I did get signal, and it said the disk was unreadable, so some of it works, but I looked inside, and it's a mess. So yeah, rest in peace, PlayStation 3. So I had all that stuff downloaded on that hard drive. Now, what I plan on doing was either getting it for. Um, I hope it. I hope they release it for the Switch, but I doubt it. That would be awesome because my Switch is my favorite console right now. But I wanted to get the game for the PlayStation 4. However, I hate, and this is the thing that I hate about both Xbox and PlayStation. I hate having to deal with disk space. And with the PS4, I have a ton of games and I filled that up. So I had to delete stuff. So I don't want to deal with that. And the solution was that I talked about it on a previous stream of Omnibros. I bought the Xbox One S for the purpose of 4K viewing for the movies and stuff. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's still a gaming console, and it shouldn't be your main source for 4K Blu-rays. And I ditched it. I bought a 4K player itself to actually watch the movies. And now I have a Xbox with no games. So I'm like, I could get some games. I started buying a couple Xbox titles. I think I showed this. Yeah, I showed this last night, actually, on Omnibros. I've been getting Xbox One titles for cheap on the console, and I want to get the Telltale games. So, Wolf Among Us. That's how everything ties back together. I'm getting the Wolf Among Us because it's out on Xbox One. Plus, I like having physical editions over digital stuff, anyways. So I am getting Wolf Among Us, and when I do, I was thinking, I don't know how I'm going to do it because I don't have anything for streams. I was thinking of maybe doing like a bootleg stream with my camera or something. I want to stream the game, but do like picture in picture and me talking about that stuff. I don't know. I probably have to get a capture card, but that's expensive, and I don't want to spend money on that. I'm not a game streamer. I'm terrible at that stuff. I wouldn't have anything interesting to say at all while I game. I'm, old school, reserved Geo when it comes to video games. Thank you, man. Yeah, that means a lot. I wish I could do them more often. I want to try. It just, the internet, the upload speed is terrible. And it's happened before. You've seen it where I'm talking and it freezes up. And that sucks. The one thing I do want to do is I want to switch the StreamYard thing, and I want to get, for my channel, on Streamlabs. I want to do the Streamlabs broadcasting because if something happens on that, I do believe there's an option where you can at least have a screen, and I can put like a cool image, like technical difficulties, or I'll be right back, and it keeps broadcasting. So, if a camera's down or something, it won't just have a static image of me. That's what I hate about StreamYard. If I freeze up, you just see me, and then eventually it goes dark, or you see the wallpaper behind the screen. I don't like that. So I don't know. Let's see. Also, later tonight, I hope to watch the first Gundam Origin Blu-ray I got today. My first step in Gundam UC watch through. Hell yeah, son. That's awesome. Matthew, thank you for tuning in. I want a Switch, but I'm gonna wait until they fix Joy-Con drift. I still have red ring PTSD. Don't want to deal with that again. One of my Joy-Cons actually it drifts upwards slightly, like very slowly. So I read online that you could try cleaning it, and I watched some videos, so it's not technically too complicated, where I think I can give it a shot. Or I could just end up buying the Pro controller, which I haven't. I've neglected on doing that, and just play everything with the Pro controller, and that's it. Wasn't PS3 the best Blu-ray player for years? Yeah, the PS3 Blu-ray player was amazing. I love that thing. I miss my. I've had terrible luck with PS3. Now that you mention it, I first had the George Foreman grill PlayStation, and that one I loved so much. I loved that it was backwards compatible. But that one, not you, me. I lost was it the sound card? Where the HDMI port wasn't working, so I couldn't get the HD signal. And then the sound card stopped functioning, so you couldn't hear anything and you couldn't see anything in high definition. So I ended up buying the Slim. The Slim got flooded, like I mentioned earlier, so that sucks. And a bunch of my games were ruined with the hurricane and water and all that stuff. So I just keep them. I could have thrown them away, honestly, because they don't work. Some are scratched and some are water damaged in the back where it has some really ugly markings to it. Maybe in another video I'll show you guys. So I can't really play them. And I just keep them because of the memories, because I can't play them anymore. And rebuying that stuff, I don't want to deal with that. So I'll just keep them. I'll just keep the memories in my head, I guess. Or if I can find ports for Switch or PlayStation 4, then I'll get them. But I've had terrible luck with PlayStation. And PlayStation 4, for some reason, I'm getting, you can probably Google this, I'm getting a problem where you put the disc in and out of the blue, it starts beeping and it'll spit the disc out. I tried every single method imaginable to fix that. Maybe it's an electronics issue with the little flap thing where you press the eject button and there's a metal tab, and when you push the button, it makes a contact with the board and makes the eject thing work. So that somebody suggested putting electrical tape on it. I tried. Didn't work. When that happens, I disconnect the PlayStation 4 and it let it breathe. Some people complained or told me that it was overheating. So now it's in an area where there's a lot of space and there's a fan and stuff, and so it's not overheating. And I don't know. I've tried everything. Nothing works. So now I just don't put any discs inside. I have terrible luck when it comes to PlayStation. On PS4, you can just plug a PS4 camera into the console and do picture-in-picture. Xbox might do the same. I didn't know that. Interesting. I will explore that option. Thank you. I didn't know. Mad scientist holding an exploding beaker on a technical screen would be cool. You know, Omnibros, we found something like that. It's pretty funny. But with like an actual TV camera from a TV studio. It's pretty cool. We're gonna debut it at some point. Gabe's got all that stuff down. I had a total of 3 PS3s. The third one I bought right before PS4 came out. Some people just have the best luck and they don't have to go through the stuff that we go through. I swear. You know, and today I was late because I had a little accident with some electronic devices. So now hopefully the Switch is okay and the TV, I don't know. I'm just cursed with that stuff. My PS3 was the only system I had die out on me twice. Speaking of dying out, I never got the 360 with the red ring. Never bothered with that. I always wanted a 360, but I heard horrible stories about it, horrendous tales. So I skipped it. I never got I think I've had almost every major console except Xbox 360, Dreamcast, and the Neo Geo stuff. I never bothered. But everything else, Genesis, Game Gear, Game Boys, DS, GBA, let's see if I can do a shot, because it's my channel. I can do whatever the heck I want, right? So I typically don't show this on OmniRose, but this is the rest of the Kalax right there. If you see my collection video, then you've seen this stuff already. I did a collection tour, I guess. It's all the statues up there. And over there, I forgot the name of that shelf from IKEA, but I bought it a couple months ago, where I put all my consoles. So you see, that is my original NES. Wow, four 360s. That's rough, man. So that is my original Nintendo Entertainment System from the late 80s when I got that, or early 90s, or whenever that was. So that's the original, and still works. Tested it, and it works just fine. The Super Nintendo I never got, because at that time I switched over, or my parents gifted me the Genesis, because that was the in thing, right? So I was a Sega and Nintendo fanboy. I've always been a fan of everything. I don't like to pick sides, I guess. But the Super Nintendo, that is from my cousin. So last year, I asked, like, hey, you're not doing anything with it. Instead of trashing it, can I keep it? Can you donate that thing to my library of gaming? And yeah, so it's a little banged up. As you can see at the top, it's all yellow and stuff, but it's for display purposes. That is my original Nintendo 64. That is my original Wii and GameCube. The Wii also got water damage, so it doesn't really work. You'll put in a disc, it doesn't read them. And over there is the PlayStation 1. You can see the PlayStation 2 right there, and all the way at the bottom right there is the PlayStation 3. So I thought it was a pretty cool way to display the gaming consoles. And the ones I'm actively using are, of course, the Xbox, which are over there, Xbox, PlayStation 4, Switch, and the 3DS, which I have somewhere in my library. Let's see. My first PlayStation 4 did that. I sent it back and they fixed it. My Pro has never had a disc in it, so I'm not sure. This was a recent thing, so the warranty already expired, so I can't do anything about it. But fortunately, it's been months. Like, I'm talking like 4 months since it happened. So fingers crossed, it's not going to happen again. 4 360s, bro. Might have been 5 360s. Jesus. I never had any Microsoft systems, but I have heard horror stories. Yep. Never had N64 either, or Dreamcast. I'd love the N64. I didn't have a ton of games for them. Mostly Mario's, Zelda's, 007, GoldenEye, and Diddy Kong Racing. What was the other thing? Wave Race, and I don't know, Bomberman. That's about it. We weren't made out of money, so I couldn't get every single game. For Dreamcast, I always wanted that thing, but not everybody had that income to get that thing. I played 64, and from then I jumped into PlayStation 2. And since I love the PlayStation so much, I went back and played PlayStation 1. That was like in 2001, 2002, something like that. And then I got into it took a long absence from games. It took a long leave and came back for the Wii. Excuse me, I had the GameCube. Yeah, that was 2003. After GameCube, I took a long break. And in 2006, 2007, I came back and got the Wii and the PlayStation 3 and all that stuff, and here we are. So that is my story with the gaming stuff, guys. We went from Fables, from friggin' Vertigo Fables, all the way to Red Rings of Death for Xbox. full circle. That's how I like it. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut it short because I only wanted to make a quick video, 30 minutes or so, reviewing this thing. I apologize for the live viewers that I started super late. You know, unforeseen events happened, and I had to move the stream along. But thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, thank you for supporting the channel. It really means a lot. All the people that watched live and all the people that are watching pre-recorded, you're the true fans. I wouldn't want 100,000 fake fans. I want like the real deal. So you guys are the absolute best. I thank you so much. You are fantastic, and you mean the world to me. And your continued support on this channel speaks volumes, and I love it. Sometimes I'm down and I don't want to. I get like these crazy thoughts, like I'll stop making videos, but I get really supportive comments and the support from friends and colleagues and stuff, and it makes me want to keep going and continue this thing. So yeah, thank you everybody. Matthew, I think Dreamcast might be one of the few systems I've never even played other than the old school rich kid stuff like Neo Geo. I had a friend who had a Dreamcast, but I never played with it. I think I saw him play with it. And the games I wanted to play from the Dreamcast, eventually we got to play them on other systems, right? Specifically, my favorite was the Sonic Adventure series, the Crazy Taxi. We played on arcades. You know, eventually you got to play some of the heavy hitters, the big famous ones. Now, however, I've gotten into emulation and stuff, so I have with me there's Redream and stuff, so I can play most of the Dreamcast stuff I missed. So, wink, wink, you might want to look into emulation instead of tracking down retro stuff. Just saying. So that's a word of advice from your friend, your friendly neighborhood Geo. I never even saw Neo Geo. Me neither. I knew what it was, and I knew about the game and the not the game, the arcade games and all that stuff. And it was awesome, but I never saw one, and I knew they were expensive. But that's about it, guys. I really do have to get going. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. For everybody watching the replay, if you've read Fables, what did you think of the first deluxe edition, the first volume, the first two storylines, I should say? Leave your comments down below, spoiler-free if possible. And if not, let me know what is your favorite Vertigo comic series. Very interested in finding out as well. So for one final time, thank you so much for tuning in. It really does mean a lot to me. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being a part of A Week in Geekdom. It truly does mean the world to me. We're on the road to 2,000 subscribers. Let's keep it going. Also, follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter, all that fun stuff. Thank you once again. I have got to go. We will be back next month, mid-June, for book 2 of Fable Fridays. So thank you again for everybody that tuned in. Edman, Matthew, and everybody else. You guys are the bomb. Thank you so much. God bless. I wish you all a happy weekend, night, day, wherever it may be.